making literally hundreds of these box jointed boxes in my shop in different places. I've thought, well, we're going to give you a little rundown on version 12 of Aspire on how to create boxes and using a box joint creator. First thing we're going to do is create a new file. And the best thing you can do is give this thing a lot more room than your CNC can cut. Like I've only got like a 25 by 25 inch CNC, but I often cut 24 by 24 inch sheets. So give it plenty of room. You do need to set your thickness at the right thickness of the material because it will mess up your box joints. They'll be either too long or too short. And so that's important for that. Also, your datum needs to be down here in the lower left corner because the gadget requires that. And that's pretty much it. So let's click OK. And basically just have your sheet over here of that. So we're going to go up here and load up the box creator version 1.5. And this file has been modified a little bit. Shark cut up on the Vectory forums went in here and he was able to modify some of the settings in the 1.3 and 1.4 versions. It didn't remember your joint width. It didn't remember your allowance. It didn't remember various things. Well, this one it actually remembers that, and then I edited the HTML file so you don't have to scroll down for the OK or the cancel button. On normally you got to use your roll mouse to get those to show up, so that kind of fools a lot of people. And I also in this file, in the LAU file, after Shortcut had modified it, I also took out some of the tabs and the ramps, took them off of it so that it wouldn't create them, because I found, every time I was doing it, they would be doing that. Also, this used to default to dovetails. It now defaults to square tabs because I use square tabs, and generally it'll default to tab lid. So when I load this up, everything's still remembered from the last time I used it. I do want to tell you that allowance is a 0.01 for like a 1/4 inch thick plywood is a good starting point. That's been working well. I haven't changed that for probably a year and a half or so. Joint width doesn't, all these things up here is just the size of your boxes and that kind of thing. But anyway, that works out good. In this case, we're just going to create a box. It's 3 3/8 inch wide, about 3 3/8 or 5/8 of an inch in depth and the height. So we're just going to let this thing run and go like that. Now, what this does is, if you don't give this big enough room, this thing will error out and it'll show you an error. So the best thing to do is, like I said, is give it plenty of room in here. And in this case right here, now that we've given it plenty of room, let's just go right up here to the file settings. And we're going to drop this down to a 24 by 24 inch sheet of plywood, because my machine's 25 by 25, and that will give me that information there. Now, on this sheet right here, I could probably take this parts right here and get them to all fit on this sheet right here. Let's just see if I can do it. And all I'm doing is highlighting it and bringing it down. And then this particular one right here, I'm just grabbing it, bringing it over, and I can hit R for rotate and put in there 90 degrees, which I can just type in 90 over here on this side right here and click apply. And then just move it Tetris-wise down in there. I got to close that window, and then click on that, and then move it down here. All right, the first thing you need to do is, you got all these tool paths over everything, and it can get kind of confusing what's going on. You see all this stuff and you're thinking, what is that? So the best thing to do is, once you get that done, is come up here and just tell it to recalculate. So it's going to go through here and recalculate everything, make sure that everything looks good. Also, whenever you look at this creates a tool path that is, you can always figure out what the tool path is, because it shows these little what do you call it, fillets, and it's where it goes in there and it puts the fillet for the joint. So that's actually the tool path. This other line is really not used, other than it kind of gives you a reference of what the thing is. So if I was just to copy everything like right here, if I was just to copy all this stuff like right here and to go over here to this tool path, it would mess up. It would cut a real wide joint, because it's going to be trying to cut both of those. So you don't want to do that. You don't get in the habit of doing that. That's been a kind of a bane that I've caught myself doing quite a few times. And we're going to look here at the tool path, and you can see that one tool path is lit up like that. Now, if I was to go over here and, like I said, highlight those two right there, and put that on that toolpath, then these joints right here would be double wide because now it's cutting both of those. And so if you're having trouble with it, then get out of that and do it that way. So, and in this case, it's got it right here. Also, it always sets your passes really high on the smaller stuff like that. I'll go, two cuts with a 1/8 inch pass, and then of course it sets the passes to two. And of course this cuts on the vector. And as you notice, it didn't add tabs and it didn't add ramps. I have them shut down because this thing notoriously puts tabs in the wrong spot. It'll put a tab right there in the middle of that right there, or it'll put one over here, and you're sitting there going, you're trying to file that out of there. Don't do that to yourself. Just get it to where if you're going to put used tabs, that's fine, but put your tabs on the outsides that you can just sand off easily. And I use a 23 gauge pin nailer, and I'll just shoot a couple 3 pin nails I found. If I get 3 of the little pin nails in here, that piece won't go anywhere. It'll stay there. Some of you guys will use double-sided tape, which is fine, or the super glue in the tape. That works fine. I generally use just pin nails, and then I just pull them out of there, and they just, because most of my boxes are utilitarian. They're for the shop kind of thing, and in some cases they're not. But anyway, so that's where that's at right there, and that's some of the tips that I've tried to show in that. Whenever you're working, let's just go, for example, let's just go ahead and delete all these things here, and we're going to get rid of the toolpath, and we're going to create a different box. And this is something that's that you will run into whenever you're trying to cut a huge box. So let's go over here and set our material back to 96 inches in height, like we're going to import a new box. And of course, everything else is set right with your datum and things. So we have an 8-foot board that's 24 inches wide. And we're going to run the gadget one more time. And in this case, we're going to make this box, and let's go 16 inches, and we're going to make the depth of it 12 inches, and the height of it, let's go 14 inches. Just for the fun of it, we're going to make the joint width at 1 inch. And this is based on your settings, and you will notice again, this remembered all my settings before, even the square tabs and the tab lid and all these. And of course, there's the tool and everything. It's all been memorized. And the earlier version only remembered about half of these things, and the other ones it didn't remember. And then again, you had to scroll down to get these on there, where now they're basically up here on this. So now, again, I have only a 25 by 25 CNC, and it's a Shark CNC. And if I was trying to cut these, of course, it wouldn't fit. And so over here, you have a cool tool called the tile toolpath. But first off, let's look at our toolpath. Just to let you know, we're going to set our passes at 2 passes because we're still cutting 1/4 inch material. And we'll set that so we get that down there. Everything's on. We're not adding tabs. I used to have to edit this every time. I'd go out to the shop and mess with this and come back in and, found out this is taking 20 minutes longer than it needed to. So anyway, that's kind of it. So the toolpath is all good. And we're just going to click close on that. Well, I should have told it to calculate because it's still going to have 11 in there. If you don't do that calculate, it does not remember what you did. So we're going to go here and calculate. And close. And so the next time I open this up, it'll show the 2. So there are passes. Everything's cool there. Okay, now what a lot of people run into is they're trying to cut these. And let's go over here to the tiling toolpath, because you can put each one of these sheet on like a special board. You could go over here and take these and move them off the side and just cut each one of these individual parts and set it like that, or you could cut them to different sheets. I mean, the new version of 12, it gives you a lot of possibilities on that. But for the biggest part, all I'm going to do is use the tiling toolpath because it's a great tool. And the way you turn this thing on is just tiling there, and we're going to set this thing for 24 inches because that's what I generally will update that. And you'll notice down here we got a T1 for tile 1, and this whole tile is tile 1. So with it being 24 inches, it's going to update it, and it's created 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles. So these are your 4 tiles. And what's cool about this is if you tried to cut these out and just use the toolpath as they are, it will create these, and you'll find this one here, part of this being made on this one tool, and then it's going to separate this. So if you was trying to slide this big old piece of plywood through there, that could work, and I did have some success at that, but it was rare. If you're off, a thousandth of a percent, they won't fit because it's just multiplied around all of these different joints. But anyway, the easy way around this is just simply to play a small game of Tetris. And we're going to, whoops, I turned that off. I didn't want to turn it on. Let's go back here and turn it back on. And all we're doing is displaying the tool pass in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move some of these around. Now, this one would turn out fine. That one would be broken. This one would be fine. That one would be broken. This one would be fine. That one would be broken. Because the tool pass go across the tiles, and you just cannot get them to work out like that. So, we'll just go like that. And another thing is I also learned is you don't need all 6 of these. All you really need is the match set. And so each one of these are on different. So I generally will just cut 3 of them. And, I'll have my 3 going in there. So in this case right here, this board is not long enough to accommodate all of these pieces. So if I wanted to, let's just for the size of this, that there's no way that I can put all these sheets on there. I could change my sheet to, this out and make my length longer. But let's just go ahead and do that. Let's click hide the tiling method, jump over here to our sheet, and let's just make this 144 inches. And it'll be 12 foot long now. So there we go there. And then we're going to go back over here to our tiling toolpath. Jump up here on that thing. And as you can see, we're going to update our tiles. And now it's added those in there. So that has to be recalculated to get it to go. So again, this one right here, and I'm just going up there, and I'm just going to put that up there on this one tile here so that there's no joints breaking across the tiles. This one here, I'm going to grab that one, put that up right here. And then this one here, I'm going to move him up to that one. And you can see the tool paths in there that are kind of messing us up. We'll tag that over there just for right now. I'm going to show off the tool path so it doesn't mess it up or kind of mess up our idea of what we're doing, because we can see them in there. And we're going to put that one on here. And then this one right here would go right here. Okay, so let's say, for example, I didn't have a 24-inch wide piece of material to work in, but I did have some 17-inch plywood to be on, and I could use that right in there. But anyway, so we've got all these boards in here, and each one of them will be cut on a different tile. And my preference is, of course, to try and save as much of the material as I possibly can. Move it down in there, that kind of thing. Move it down as close so you don't have near as much waste. And sometimes you get too close. You don't want to do that. You want to have enough room to where they, fit in there. So, what this has done then is here we are with our cutout. We're going to go over here and recalculate all our tool paths. And we've got them all turned on. As you can see that all of our tool paths are on there and they're right. And again, it's only highlighting the one tool path with the. All right, I was thinking of a couple things. On a 1/4-inch material, you don't want to set your cut depth. So on my table, I cut into a spool board. I just do that. It gives me clean cuts, especially on my box joints. If you don't have it where it cuts through, you got a whole lot of cleanup and sanding to do. And so, I would prefer to cut through it all the way. And so on a 1/4-inch, I'll go like a, 0.26 instead of a 0.25. Also, one thing that I noticed on my 1/8-inch end mill, on my edited passes, I basically went into the tool and I changed this. This was 0.025 or whatever, 0.025. So that's why I was getting 11 pass steps on that, which it's a 1/8-inch end mill. So, you can go, I could probably go an 1/8 inch on those. a depth of cut, and I do that quite often with that. So I went ahead and changed that to 0.1 and then applied it. And then I noticed as soon as this popped up there that it made my passes 3 instead of 11. So that's something that I hadn't really done for, I've been changing that for all this time, and really, when I really could have just, went with that. And I also do prefer, 3, so I could probably go in there and edit that even down a little bit more. And on that pass depth, I could go, let's say 1.5 and apply that. Let's see if that does it in two passes. Yeah, it does it 2 passes. So that would be just a little bit speedy. And then, of course, I was only going for a a 1/4 inch cut. So anyway, I'm going to try that just to see how that works out and go with that. So, of course, whenever you do that, you want to calculate your vectors, and away you go. So, all right, in this particular case right here, if you got all your vectors set up and you edit your passes, let's go back up here and select our end mill and go back here to the 1/8, and there's my, okay, so we'll apply that, click select, that dropped it down to 2, and we'll just calculate, and it's got all those down there once again. We've got to pay real close attention to the fillets right here. That's your toolpath. The other one is just in there. So that's kind of there for a graphical representation. So you calculate and then close that. And so, there we are, and we're set up, ready to roll on there. Don't highlight both of them. If you do that, you'll be in error, and you'll have joints that don't fit. So anyway, whenever we did this, and we click on Save Toolpath, it's going to tell us to output the tile toolpaths with the file names. And in this case, I'm using my inch. And if I click Save Toolpaths, click right there, and it's going to tell me where to put it. And I'm just going to put it down. Let's just put it right here under just a temporary guy here. I'm going to call this new folder Marco Play. We'll put it in there. And this is going to create, there's nothing in there. It's going to cut out tap, and it'll be tile 1, tile 2, tile 3, tile 4, tile 5. So we'll click save. And then it's basically created those tile paths. And we're going here, if we go up here to that folder on our desktop, let's see here. Let's go right in here, open file location, and there's your tiles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And those are your tab files. You just load them up in your CNC, and it will cut those out, no problem. And then I generally will just save, the file in that same folder and that kind of thing. So, that's some tips on using a box creator. I want to thank Shark Cutout for taking this LAU file that this gadget runs off of and allowing me to get rid of all the little headaches that came along with that, with the ramps and the not remembering stuff, because I would think, what was that setting for that? And so it just really made it sweet to be able to do that. And like again, most of my cutting is 24 inches, so I can make a box basically 24 inches by 24 inches big. And on my little 25-inch, or I could go 25-inch by 25-inch, but that would be the biggest I could cut. And so anyway, this is only available in VCarve Pro, and it's only available in Aspire and its gadgets. And this little guy here is probably one of the coolest things. And I probably made over 200 boxes of all kinds. I've made them out of hardwood, cedar, oak, walnut, 1/4-inch stuff, 1/2-inch stuff, 3/4-inch stuff, you name it. And so these are some things that I added to this, and so there we go. All right, you're kind of questioning maybe where do these gadgets fit in. Shark Cutup also made a very quick, easy way of recalling information for hotkeys and image file formats, 3D formats. He just made this LAU file that displays this. And what's really cool about this is this isn't really documented right here, but this is where your gadgets on version 12, this is where they're stored in user public documents directory. and this is the place where it's stored. And the ones that come installed, uh, they're not really there. If you go to the application file over here, let's close that down. First off, let me just copy that real quick. And we just Control C, copy that, and click close. And if you go over here to the applications data, right down in here, where's that here? File, open applications data folder. And if you go over here to gadgets, as you can see, it's not in this folder that that the other one was in. So it's kind of a little confusing because they have these gadgets in here, but yet they're not where the program actually looks for them in. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. And so let me just go Control V. See, this is actually where they're located. Users, public documents, and you hit enter, and that'll take you over there. And while we're talking about that, if you go over here to the box creator, and I make a backup file that's in here. Very important for us to do that. Let me double check, make sure. I think I am recording. Okay. I always make a backup of what it is that I'm working on. I am not a programmer. I'm a tweaker. And basically what I've done is, this is the LAU file that Shortcut actually created. And I'm going to open that with all I do is click on it, right click it, open with, and I'm just going to open it with Notepad. And this is just a text editor. And this is the LAU script that runs inside of vCarve Pro or Spire. And this is the file that it loads up. So the box creator, this is the script for the box creator. Version 1.5, I think the one on the web is under Vectric is a 1.3 or 4. But this one's been modified, and Shortcut put his notes in there on this date here. And he also put some notes in here to, give me an easier way to figure out what's going on in this. So without his help, I would not be where I'm at. But in this case here, if let's say, for example, I want to find the things that I'm changed just for me, and I'm just going to put in Mark Jones, and I'm going to put that in there. It's under one word. And there my note is right here. And this is for the tab length in the to use tabs. And what I did is I changed this right here. It says profile data use tabs to false. It was true. Changed true to false. And that's what I changed right in there. And then if I go down to the next one here that I changed, local ramping data was false. I changed true to false, and the little marks like this is just to put a comment in there, so and the program ignores that and just puts it in there. Okay, and then this is a radio button, lid type, and the default I changed it to change 1 to 2, and so that would be the default settings. And the other one was not to add that. And let's go down here and look at another one here. Yeah. Okay, so there's basically 3 places that I changed this to remember. Now I will say that Shortcut, when he went in here and edited this, he added some buffers, he added some places in the program that remembered the settings and that kind of information. So we're going to get out of that, and basically, so I modified this file that's in that folder that I just showed you, and that was that. Now before you modify these 2 files, put them over here into a backup folder and put them in there, and that way they'll be saved in case you mess something up. Now on the box creator, if you just click on it, it's going to show you this. And what I did with this particular one is, before you always had to scroll down to see the OK and the cancel, and a lot of people were confused with that. So all I did was I took out a couple little lines that were in between this data here. Let me show that to you real quick. And I'm going to edit this with a text editor. Open with Notepad. And this is the code in this box creator 2 HTML that the box creator calls. And all I did is kind of looked at it, and I went to the very bottom of it. And all I did is I pulled out this. This did look very similar to this, where it had these are basically just kind of like a space in there. And so right in between the buttons, as I pulled out about 5 or 6 of these like that, pull them out and only left the 2 in there. So that caused the buttons to come up into the deal. And so that after the screen was written, it would put that in. So this is how I modified that by just simply highlighting those 3 or 4 like that. You don't want to get into too much of it. And again, you need to back up this stuff before you get in there and mess with it, because if you do something that it requires absolute perfection to run right. And so all it is just deleted those 5 that was in there, but I left the one up here and the one below it. In this case here, right here. Anyway, that allowed the buttons to run. And so when you're in your box creator, that's what it does that. So anyway, these are the few little tips that I picked up. And thanks again to Shark Cut Up for what he was able to do. I use the box creator all the time, and I make stuff, all kinds of different things for it. And that's that.